So it's interesting. It seems to be an inadvertent theme today of like numbers and one thing I've never done before. I do enjoy this kind of stuff, but even though sort of every CEO and founder has to be sort of both paranoid and almost negative on the inside, you have to always be positive on the outside. So I've never done once anything like negative, like top 10 mistakes. Even though for those of you that read SaaStr, it's all my mistakes, right? But I try and always put a spin on them, and this is still a spin because it's the top 10 mistakes I made from nothing to 20 million ARR in that core growth period. But in doing this, I found some interesting learnings that I actually hadn't explored before across 1,311 Quora posts and 206 blog posts. There are still a few new learnings, even from me. So I thought I'd share these from you and with you, and I think as you scale your SaaS companies, if you just don't make any of these 10 mistakes, I guarantee you that you'll do even better. And this is kind of my Uber theme of SaaStr, which is, more success, less stress. We're all going to make a ton of mistakes, but let's not make the avoidable mistakes, right? If we can just do that, we can just kill it. So some of you may know me. Just a couple things in terms of background that's kind of fun in the SaaStr community. For those who know it, by the end of this year, we'll cross 1 million views a month, which is pretty awesome, considering we just talk about like recurring revenue in SaaS. So who knew? And then here, hopefully, you're coming. But on February 5th, in this exact place, on this exact stage, but with a slightly different crew and a few more bodies, we will have this first SaaStr annual. It will be pretty awesome. We'll have to cap out at about 900 in this room with the balcony and everything, and then we'll have about 1,500 for the party, which will go all night. I think Max said 3 a.m. is the hard cap, but whatever it is, it'll be great. So hopefully we'll get together on February 5th, which will be pretty cool. So I'm going to skip the first one because I think Chris Duggan and a few others hit it, although I'll briefly repeat it. But I did these 10 mistakes based on time, right? Based on the earliest days to sort of getting into the double digits in revenue. But the number one mistake, I went too high. In my first startup, I closed $6 million in revenue myself the first year, but I never hired an inside sales team. And I went to hire them, and I got help. I worked by network, I worked with a recruiter, and I narrowed it down to 2. One was a guy named Joe Clutty that's in this room, which then went on to figure this all out, our whole initial sales process, and be one of our top sales reps for something like 7 years. So clearly that was a good hire, right? Like no question. And then there was the number 2 guy I liked. And he had actually worked at LinkedIn, and I called up this guy, Brendan Cassidy, who I think was still at LinkedIn at the time. I said, what do you think about this other guy? And he said, mid-pack. So I didn't hire him, right? Now, you could say, well, I shouldn't have hired a mid-pack guy, but actually I should have hired him. Top mistake. Because even as great as Joe was, for me, never having managed a direct sales team before, I had no idea what Joe was doing. I really didn't. Even though I closed all the customers before him, I had no idea what I was doing. If I'd had Joe and the other gentleman, Joe clearly would have outperformed him, but I would have been running this real-time A/B test every single day. And those couple of bucks that I would have spent on his base and the marginal amount of bonus he would have earned, it would have been the cheapest investment in learning I could possibly make, right? And I had a mentor at the time that was helping me that had run a sales team before, and he said, hire them both, right? And I knew that my number 2 choice was not as good as my number 1, but total mistake. I would have learned so much in the time when it was just Joe and me, notwithstanding that he killed the number, if I just had a guy that was number 2, at least as a first-time guy managing a sales team. And the real reason is, of course, all one rep shows you is it's repeatable, right? But you can't get that repeating process until you have 2. You can't, Sam talked about, and I think Brendan touched on it, when do you hire the VP of sales? I often say the same 1 million, million and a half initial traction, but the truth is the number doesn't really matter. You're not ready to hire your VP of sales until the process is repeating, right? Not just repeatable. And if you don't have 2, it ain't repeating. It cannot by definition be possible. So always hire 2, right? And anyhow, this is sort of the typical way you want to do it. You plus 2 reps. I should hire the head of marketing before the VP of sales. I hired Loretta Jones, our head of marketing that Sam and Brendan referred to. She's now the VP of marketing at Insightly. I hired her when it actually was just Joe and me, one sales rep, me and Loretta, I think. And at the time, I didn't know if that was too early. Maybe I hired her at 30K MRR. With hindsight, it wasn't a day too early, right?